You are watching the Exceptional Conservative Network. For more information, go to www.tecntv.com. Hey, good day to you all. Welcome to Perm and Associates. I'm your host, Randy Perm, of course. Hey, happy, fantastic Friday. Of course, this is the time that we take to thank our men and women who are serving our nation around the world, sacrificing and making commitments to protecting our freedoms, our Constitution, our way of life. We thank you and we salute you and we wish you nothing but a safe journey back home to your friends, family, and loved ones, wherever that may be. And with that being said, we have a very special guest with us who is fighting to protect our Constitution, our freedoms, and our way of life. And he is currently over in Ukraine as a volunteer. And we're gonna before I bring him on, I gotta properly introduce him. So without further ado, we're gonna talk about a lot of things. But as always, Michael McGerrey is a Texas native that hails from the little big town of Fort Worth. He graduated from Ariel Pascal High School in 1999. While in high school, he worked as a baker at a cafeteria all 4 years and rode bulls independently for 3 years in high school and 1 year after he graduated. After high school, Michael worked as a plumber in Fort Worth for a company that specialized in large industrial and commercial type plumbing. His primary focus was large food processing plants. Michael worked in Fort Worth as a plumber until 2006 when he moved to Manhattan, New York. While living in New York for a year, he also worked as a plumber. He was assigned a boiler room for Columbia University. Once completed, he had enough of New York, of course. Glad you came to your senses. And returned to Texas. Not able to find the kind of work he desired as a plumber, Michael decided to enter the United States Army as an infantryman. Michael graduated from training from Fort Benning, Georgia in May of 2008. He went on to Fort Drum, ooh, then deployed to Iraq with the 10th Mountain Division, then moved to the 101st Airborne Division. Then he deployed to Afghanistan with the 101st before exiting the military in 2014. In February 27, 2022, 3 days after Russia invaded Ukraine while finishing his first book, Michael was notified via Facebook Messenger asking if he would be interested in going to Ukraine as a volunteer. He instantly agreed, and on March 13th, he was in Ukraine. While in Ukraine, Michael has done everything from fixing the sinks for people whose husbands were fighting and didn't have anyone to help them with those sort of things to training soldiers and running supplies to the front lines. He works as a volunteer independently funding himself and his efforts. Now he has written two books, Life's Memorable Moments and The Quest for Happiness. He is currently working on his first full novel, DEFCON 2 Operation Ukraine. Ladies and gentlemen, introducing the some and presenting the others, Mr. Michael McGerrey. Welcome, sir.
Hello, folks.
How you doing, man?
Hey, I think that pretty much sums it all up, right? That's it. I can go now.
Right. But first off, I want to say, welcome to the show. I know
Yes,
it's
yes,
late.
sir.
Yeah, I know it's late over there in Ukraine right now because it is, the time zone difference between us, and so I want to ask you, where if you can divulge this information, where are you in Ukraine?
I'm between Kiev and Dnipro.
Okay, okay, good deal. How long you been over there now? You've been over there continuously since March of
March
13.
13th. Yeah, March 13th, 2022, I guess. I leave so I'm here on a tourist visa, essentially. Like, so every 3 months I leave,
Okay.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I have to. But yeah, but I always come back
Right. Right.
and I, you know, do whatever is asked of me.
Okay. Understood. Understood. I wonder. I know a lot of people are like wondering, and there's because there's news reports that there are U.S. personnel, and they don't really specify as to like what type of personnel. They just say there's U.S. folks or U.S. personnel over in Ukraine, and but they're quick to quell the idea that the U.S. personnel that are there are fighting, or there's an actual unit, military boots on the ground fighting there in Ukraine. And that is also not your case. You're there as a volunteer, just assisting with humanitarian efforts and lending your expertise of military service to the soldiers that you come across. Is that an accurate description, or is there more to
Very
meets the eye?
accurate. Very accurate.
Okay.
So originally when I got here, um, geez, a year and a half ago, I guess now. There are a lot of special assets that wanted to market Ukraine,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I gave security for those individuals, those big name dudes. One of the guy who did 2,000 Mules. I
Yeah, the next
I
exclusive.
was security for I was security for that guy when he came to Ukraine.
Okay. The next
Um,
exclusive. Yeah.
no,
No, not that one.
no,
Oh, okay.
no, not that one.
Oh, okay.
the, the George guy. Anyway,
Ah, got you. Okay. Okay.
so
Yeah. No.
anyway,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So anyway, so and that kind of became my job as well. I give protection details to people that like need it, right? Um, and what we learned was that we were getting a lot of packages that weren't making it to the front lines because Ukraine's corrupt, right? And
Mm.
so, and there's checkpoints, and every time you hit a checkpoint, they take a little bit off the top, right?
Oh wow, that's crazy. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah. That's
yeah.
Mogadishu '91 all over again, man.
Right.
Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
know exactly
Doc.
what you're talking
Yeah.
about.
Exactly. Exactly.
Wow. Okay.
So we put together a unit that escorts packages, right,
Mm-hmm.
and basically helps them get to the front line. Essentially, think like stupid shit, socks, right? Like things that people don't think about.
Yeah, yeah.
Socks, expendables as we call them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like um, bandages,
Yeah.
things that like you just go through a lot of them, obviously. So yeah, and so that's and then I also I help teach T and I also teach basic first like infantry stuff, right? Like which is complicated because I didn't know that they didn't know anything.
Yeah. No.
And so take a lot of these guys have never held a weapon.
Mm-hmm.
They've never seen one. So I'm like, hey, this pointing in towards the enemy, and ready up drills,
Yeah.
right? Like so.
Yeah, right. Michael, real quick. Some of the audience they probably don't know exactly what it is that we're talking about because we're both, military. So we're throwing all kind of acronyms out there and everything else.
Yeah,
So I'm gonna back up real quick. When he says triple C, T triple C, that's tactical combat casualty care, ladies
combat
and gentlemen.
casualty care. Yeah,
Yes, and so that's basically first aid, for the civilians out there. That's basically for teaching them first aid, but under combat conditions with combat related injuries and whatnot. So it's treating how to treat those things on the battle front lines on the battlefield there, in order to sustain that person till they're actually able to get to a qualified medical facility. So that's what we're discussing right now, and the things that he's doing there. But Michael, your day to day operations, you just went through some of that, and you say you're there, as a volunteer, so you're not being paid by any entity. How is it that are self sustaining and taking care of yourself, because you can't go rely on go knocking door to door, or put up a cash app sign out there. So how is it that people
yeah.
how is it that people can support you, or and how are you supporting yourself there?
Well, okay, so I get benefits from because I've served in the
Okay.
military. I get benefits, right? I'm at like 70%, I guess. So you can do the math on that. Um, but I write books, and those books sell. And if those books sell, I get commission off of that, right? Um, no one other than that, I pretty much just take care of it all on my own. And
Mm.
I don't ask anybody for anything. If you want to donate to me, go buy my. I prefer you buy the Quest for Happiness because I self publish that, and so that goes directly into my account, and at least you get something for
In
your
return,
donation,
yeah.
right?
In return, that
And I'd much rather y'all do like I'd much rather y'all do that. I
gotcha.
don't have a gun GoFundMe. I don't have any of that because I've been doing this now for a year and a half and I'm doing okay, right? So, or if you know somebody in, like I had to leave every 3 months, so if you know somebody in Europe that I can hang out with, that's cool too.
Ah, that's a yeah. We can discuss that offline, because there might be some options. Um, Here, ladies and gentlemen, the book that he one of the books he's referencing to. Actually, I was going to bring this up next, is the Quest for Happiness. So tell us more about the Quest for Happiness. Right off the gate, somebody walking past this, at Barnes and Noble, Amazon or wherever, they may see this and say, okay, this is a children's book, and then they keep walking. But tell us,
Yeah,
it's actually more to that. So tell us about that.
yeah. So I was in Denmark, oddly enough, and talking to people about war, I guess, and they were like, "Well, how are you just so calm?" Like, going, I don't, I just am like because
Mm-hmm.
I have a reference,
Yeah.
right? Like I was every time I look in the mirror, I see a good person, and I'm happy with the person that I see. And the individual I was with was like, "You need to write a book about that." Like, going, I don't even know where to begin. And then I started telling them like, well, it started with me like becoming to be a gentleman, and then
Mm-hmm.
becoming one,
Yeah.
and that being the effort. The effort was becoming a gentleman, and that was the goal. Um, and then I did, at least in my mind, I guess. I
Mm-hmm.
you never stop trying, but I'm closer to it anyway. So I started writing it down, like how I became the person that I am, and that runs towards shit and not away from it.
Yeah. exactly, and that's important.
and and that's basically and like here's the thing. I did it in 70 pages.
Mm,
It's not a 500-page book,
yeah,
right? Like it doesn't take 500 words, 500 pages to tell somebody how to be a good person.
exactly.
It's
Yeah,
pretty simple.
yeah.
Do
And
this. Yeah.
yeah, you're absolutely right. It doesn't take an entire I guess you could say traditional book, book size. 3 to 500 pages. That's like your traditional book size. It could be a simple like you said, 70 pager. And the content is actually less than that. You got to have that
Yeah.
that book spacing there of the foreword and the table of contents and all. So that amounts up to your 70 pages. But you're absolutely right. Given the age that we're in, that we're living in, people look for brevity. They look for bluff. Give me the stuff right now up front. I don't need all the extra minutia. Just tell me what it is that I need to know, how to do it, and where to go, and how long I'm going to be there, and
That's
that's it.
that's why I love Hemingway.
Yeah, yeah,
Hemingway is
Hemingway. Yeah,
always
Ernest
about
Hemingway.
brevity.
Yeah,
Like if you can't tell it in a sentence, then you don't need to tell it,
that's a good point. That is a good point.
right?
Yep.
So, and on top of that, like I wrote The Quest for Happiness in order for it to be read 2 or 3 times. That's why I kept it short. Just put it in your back
Mm,
pocket and like, hey, yeah. And
okay.
like so in there is the Gentleman's Creed, and I break down the Gentleman's Creed, and there's the Cowboy Code, and I that's pretty self-explanatory, so I don't think I broke that down, but because it's self-explanatory. But yeah, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
and and the rest of it just builds off of that Gentleman's Creed.
Yeah, yeah. I got you.
It's because you move through the Gentleman's Creed, and there's a lot. It's kind of like the Ranger Creed and whatever else, but like it just more detailed. And
Yep.
then you you move through it, and then everything else builds off of that, and it's
Mm-hmm.
always being referenced back, kind of like you reference back to the NCO Creed or the Ranger Creed,
Yeah,
right? Like
yeah.
everything. And if y'all don't know what that is, then go look it up. But the thing
Yeah.
is like like I mean that's
It's
one of those
a
things
it
we
goes
had.
it has a frame of reference that people can go back to that may be familiar, and it actually can link to other things that other like more civilianized. So like for example, the Serenity Prayer. It kind of like you can link it to different things that you're familiar with, but you're just getting it from a different perspective, and that is also important too, and that's why I highly encourage everyone to pick up that book and check it out, because you will find that it is something that you could connect to, something that you can resonate with. You could be just sitting on a train, bus, riding in the back of an Uber, and like you said, Mike said, you can whip it out real quick and just kind of like skim through it, and and digest it in bits and pieces, and say, okay, you know what, this is what's helping me recenter myself, refocus on what I need to get done. And we all need that from time to time. Mike, everybody anticipated talking to for me to talk to somebody that's over in Ukraine. This has been like a ongoing endeavor of mine for a few months now, and I had one person lined up who was actually a Ukrainian lieutenant colonel equivalent, and yeah, that fell through real quick. It was like, oh, yeah, never mind, we can't do that. I was like, oh, okay, all right, whatever. So, but I wanted to ask you. Many people are speculating, and I'm one of these guys. I have it in the back of my mind as well that the war between Russia and Ukraine is a actual proxy war with the United States and China. And it's just so happened to be, kind of like the funnel system is going on there, where the money is being pumped into Ukraine by the United States and Western allies to although fight Russia, but the Chinese are supplying and helping out Ukraine, Russia, and so it's kind of like this weird love hate relationship thing going on, from a global point of view. Can you confirm or deny that idea that there that this is a proxy war, or is it not? Is this actually just a legitimate fight between Russia and Ukraine?
Okay, so in the beginning, I would have said no. Now, yeah, 100%.
Mm,
It's a proxy between China and China's waiting to see what happens with Russia in the United States,
mm,
in the EU, in
yeah,
NATO. It's Ukraine's in an unfortunate situation, right? Ukraine's going to win. They have to because no one wants to see Russia have control of the Black Sea. Period. So Ukraine's going to
true.
win. It's just a matter of
How?
how,
Yeah,
right?
how they gonna win?
Like,
Yeah,
okay, like what? And you're starting to see like people like Poland, especially, are starting to arm up and get ready for
yeah,
who knows what, right?
right. And you know what? Real quick, there is those talks that Poland is bracing for a possible incursion by Russia, but I think the Polish are forgetting that they're part of NATO. So it's like we being under the NATO
Well, okay, so
apparatus,
okay, yeah,
you're
yeah.
you're
The problem. So like, I spent a lot of time in like in Romania and Poland and da da da, right?
yeah, yeah.
Um, and the problem is there's not a whole lot of faith in NATO.
Right, and that's what I was going to get to.
So
And you're hitting on you
so
just brought it up. There's not a whole lot of faith there, but there is that Article
yeah,
5. So if there is something that happens, whether or
but
not NATO,
who's going to stand up?
well, that is the question.
I
That would be
mean,
the
really,
question. Yeah,
who's going to stand up? And if right now, and this is another thing like recently happened. So this is recent, right?
okay.
Is that Putin just went and asked Kim for help.
Mm-hmm. I was just going to bring that up next.
So so there's a positive of that and there's a negative of that. The positive of that is that means Ukraine's winning,
Mm-hmm.
right? We've got Putin on his heels, and he's having to ask people he wouldn't normally ask for help.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
There's a
I
bad
agree.
side of that. There's a bad side of that. Kim needs one element to go nuke, and he's crazy enough to do it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And Putin's not crazy enough to do it. Crazy as he might be, he's not crazy enough to do it. Kimmy, he might fucking do it.
Yeah,
Pardon my language.
yeah, yeah. No, look, Kim. Ladies and gentlemen, that reference is to a '90s rapper that don't know who Lil Kim is. You can go ahead and look her up.
Right.
She's still
Yeah.
around.
Yeah. Yeah.
but
Exactly.
but you're absolutely right. That there are signs that shows that Russia is losing this war and that they're being depleted on their resources. I'm currently reading a book right now by a friend of mine who is also a host on this network, Dr. Darren Gertis, and the book is entitled "I Need Ammunition, Not a Ride," and it's basically it's talking about and it's discussing everything that's going on with the war up to date, and he provides updates on in the book. So if you have the like Kindle version of it, you'll be getting like kind of like real time updates as he's as things happen. But to the point he's discussing, Vladimir Zelensky's leadership. So that's what this book is primarily about, is the leadership of Zelensky in this war effort against Russia, encouraging, motivating, going around different countries talking about what's going on and utilizing their own past experiences with wars and what have you to kind of gin up that emotion and say, hey, remember when 9/11 happened to you, and you felt stuck, and you just lost all these people because somebody invaded your country. Just imagine this is what we're feeling right now. Give us $7 billion. you know so it's kind of like, when you're looking at this from the standpoint of most American citizens who are just getting this information in passing. There's the leadership aspect of Zelensky, trying to rally the troops per se for a cause against Russia, but there's also like this prostitutious, front that he's going around to different countries, around the world, literally, and asking for money, asking for resources, asking for help to fight against Russia. And I got to ask you, sir, are these resources that are being asked for and given to Ukraine, do you see that on ground coming in? Do you see, like, I don't know, like Chinooks, Chinooks full of pallets and everything being
Yeah,
dropped?
no, no,
No, okay.
no.
I'm just
Um,
wondering.
so like the short answer is no, right?
I know I said a whole lot
I, I
for a short answer to be no.
ba- basically what it is, from what I can tell, anyway, is the United States, and I am against this. I don't want people. I don't need fucking money. I need bullets, right? Like it's just exactly what was written, like what Zelensky said. Like
Yeah,
I don't need to write. I need bullets. I don't need money. I don't need paper. Send me bullets.
yeah, yeah.
Send me rounds. Send me tanks. Basically, what's happening is, and this is shitty for me to say, but it's the truth, is that the United States is basically propping up the Ukraine economy,
Mm,
and
yeah,
it sucks. I hate saying that, but it's the truth.
yeah.
And
And I can garner that same assessment as well. That
yeah,
all this money right now, ladies and gentlemen. If you don't know, as of right now, as we're talking, Friday, September 29th, 2023, 77 billion, that's with a B, $77 billion from the United States has been pumped into Ukraine to date. And we have a fentanyl crisis, we have a border crisis, we have a homelessness crisis, we have a mental health crisis, we have all
Jesus,
kinds of
Joseph.
shiza going on, in the United States. That $77 billion could do a lot of damage in correcting, but no, it's being sent overseas. Now, and ladies
Well,
and gentlemen, don't.
okay.
I would say, I would say,
Can I
indifferent to what's going on, this is where we at. But yes, please go ahead, Mike. Yes,
can I say one thing?
absolutely.
77 whatever billion, right? Is one F-22 Raptor.
Excellent point. You're right. You,
And
you know,
if one of those bad bitches flew over freaking Ukraine, the war would be over.
mm yeah, that's a good point. The price tag that's being expended right now on behalf of the United States alone. That's not never mind what UK, the United Kingdom, UK is sending over. Never mind what the European Union has sent in, and all the different supporting countries around in that region. Never mind what they're sending in. I'm looking at 77 billion should have ended this thing by now.
Yeah.
We're like at the
It
cusp.
should be done.
Yeah, we're at the
Should be
cusp,
done.
ladies and gentlemen. If you don't understand military operations, you're in the right classroom. You're in the right classroom right now because $77 billion is damn near the equivalent of the entire Iraq War,
Yes.
and that went on for 20
Well,
years. So just imagine.
okay, hold on. So where I'm sorry, where did you train? Fort Jackson?
No, no, I went to Fort McClellan, Alabama.
Okay,
Chemical.
so imagine so $3 million to feed you, teach you how to be
Mm-hmm.
go from a civilian to a soldier,
Yeah.
right? Just in that, what is it, 18 weeks, right? 16 weeks for me, probably $3 million for me. Times that by, I don't know, 3,000.
Mm-hmm.
You're looking at a fighting force that is what, $33 billion,
Yeah.
right?
Easy. Easy.
Easy, easy.
Equipment, and the whole nine.
Equipment,
Yes.
weapons, whatever, but ammo, time served, meal, MREs. MREs aren't cheap.
True.
Should I buy? Go buy a box of MREs. Tell me how much it costs you.
Yeah. Yeah. Hell, one MRE is
And
like $12.99.
yeah, right. Like the
The
good
good one.
ones, the good ones.
Yeah.
Right? So like now, imagine that and times that by 20 years, right? That was just a week in
Hmm.
Iraq. You're looking at $33 billion just for a week in Iraq. Now times that by 20 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tell
No, I
tell me
got
how
you.
much that cost.
And
There's your trillion. There's your $1 trillion right there.
yeah, no, I got you. And the funny thing is the funny thing is people are like, oh, we gotta support Ukraine against Russia. We gotta do this. We gotta do. Yeah, don't get me wrong. Like I said, I really don't care about where people stand on the issue. I'm looking at the principality of the money being spent there, what's being done with it, and what it's yielding, and where like what's the end game here. And no one can really speak to that. All they're saying is, we need to stop the Russian
It
aggression.
and that's the problem. That's the
Yeah,
problem, right?
yeah,
No one has an end goal,
yeah,
right? That was a problem in Iraq and Afghanistan. We
exactly.
didn't have an end state,
Yeah,
right? Like
there's no
we
timetable.
there's like okay, so what's mission complete,
Exactly. And
right?
and give it, and let these suits tell you in the brass. They would say the end state is stopping the war with Russia. Well, you could have already did that if
He could
if it,
have.
yeah, if you really wanted to stop the war with Russia, you could have just said, you know what, the entire Western Hemisphere is going to
move,
get into this fight.
move
And
the move the Fifth Fleet into the Black Sea.
mm-hmm, yeah, yeah.
Fly a couple of F-22s over. Maybe and like I don't know about you, but like I mean a couple A-10s because those are
Oh yeah,
freaking
yeah,
badass
18
birds,
Warhog, yeah,
and
yeah.
a couple of Apaches,
Yep.
dude.
Game over.
Game over. Like
Done deal.
anytime. Here's the truth. Anytime I was in Iraq, when I was in Iraq, if a pair of Apaches showed up, it was
Mm-hmm.
game over.
Yep.
Like even though they couldn't do shit because collateral damage and shit,
Yeah, and ROE. Yeah, yeah.
they just that show of force
Force. Yep.
was
And Michael, I'm glad you said it. You said the key word right there. The United States, NATO, the Western Hemisphere, they don't even necessarily have to do anything. Not one fire,
no,
not one shot needs to be fired. All they got to do is
nope.
just go to the Ukrainian border, line up, and say, cross this if you want. Fuck around and find
Here,
out. And then
here I
that would have
am,
been over with.
motherfucker. Here I am, motherfucker.
It would have
Like
been over with. But no,
yeah,
we're
if he
we're
done
we're
and
funneling
and
money.
here's the thing, like everybody's like going, well, we're worried about World War III. Like going, dude,
We're
if
already in
you
it.
don't do something, World War III happens.
Yeah. but
it's
we're already
not
in
a
it.
matter of if you do something, World War Three happens. It's if you don't do something,
Hmm.
World War Three happens.
Yep.
Right? World War Two happened because we turned a blind eye
Yep. And still
and
got
just let
slapped.
it. And
And
still
still
got
got slapped
slapped.
anyway. Yeah.
Right?
Exactly. You know.
And
You know, you're absolutely right. You know, it's either you do something or you do nothing, and something still happens. So that's what I
right.
said. You know, it could have been ended. It was like, okay, you know what, Russia,
But
we're tired of playing with you. But
what
now you look at
what our dads used to tell us: punch a bully in the mouth, and he stops being a bully.
yeah. But then another
Right?
bully comes along, and then but even if the Western Hemisphere got involved and said, you know what, we're just gonna put a few tanks on the front lines and a few Apaches, A-10s and whatnot in the sky, and to scare off Russia. Then now you got China, North Korea, and oh by the way, the formation of
Well,
BRICS.
okay. So China's hurting,
Yes, they are hurting,
right?
but when I
So
say China, I would say I'll let you get to your point, but when I say China would get involved in everything else, they would then make their move on Taiwan because everybody else is
oh yeah.
distracted. Everybody else is distracted with Ukraine.
China knows that they have to make a move before the end of 2024,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like if they're going to do something, they're going to do it by the end of 2024. They
Yep.
have to, right? Because no one knows who's going to win the next election. And
Good point.
if someone like Trump wins the election, they know they're looking at a world of hurt because Trump's going to shut everything down for China.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like going, nope, you're done. And he will move the Fifth Fleet and the Seventh Fleet and whatever fleet in the freaking Taiwan and the Black Sea.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he's going to be a show of force. Like,
Yeah. I
here we
think that
go.
I think that is an accurate assessment and prediction as to what could potentially unfold there. Before we move on to the next topic here, I gotta say, I got a few friends that's in Ukraine that's from Ukraine. They're not currently in Ukraine, but from Ukraine. And we had this discussion offline. We talked with stuff, and they were mad at me. They're like, it sounded like you support Putin. And I'm like, no, it's not that I support Putin. It's the fact that there's too much going on that shouldn't be going on the behalf of the United States, the European Union, and just the Western allies, NATO. There's too much going on, too much money being thrown around, too many resources, military equipment. All this stuff is being thrown around, and you got this relatively small country. Ukraine is about the equivalent size of Texas. So you got this country
Yeah.
compared to the land
And
mass
Texas
of
isn't
Russia.
small, but
Yeah, it's
Texas
not
isn't
small, but I
small.
mean, like when you're comparing it to Russia, and the land
Yeah.
mass. I'm looking at land mass,
Right.
comparing that. Not so much the populations, but so you're telling me, and then oh by the way, back in 2008. So folks, if you don't know your history, you need to go back and no, sorry, not 2008, 2014, when Russia took Crimea from
From here?
Ukraine.
Yeah.
It did.
How about Georgia in 2008?
Georgia, yes, I was going to say Georgia, and you back to saying the wars that's going on over there. The folks, this is nothing new. So, when the Western hemisphere sat on his laurels and
Can
said, "Oh,
can can I
sure,
interject
please,
real quick?
yes, go ahead."
Who were the presidents when those things happened?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I was going to leave that alone, but since you mentioned it, yes, these happen under Democrat presidents, and so it's not a wonder. It's not. It shouldn't be a surprise to the American people, to the European people, that in February, Joe Biden was nice and cozy in office 1 month in. In February, Putin said, "Okay, I guess this election was real because they had a shit show going on over there. Boys, move in, and that was it. He wanted to wait. He sat back and waited because he
Well,
saw
okay,
he
no,
saw
sir.
January
Okay, so
6th.
there's a lot more to that than that. Like,
True, it is.
so
It is. It
so
is.
I mean, if you look at it, like, so if you look at like what was happening globally,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Absolutely.
Then you have the Olympics happening in Beijing
Mm-hmm.
in 2022, right? Now, and this was a tell, and this was a tell that Russia was in bed with that Russia was in bed with China.
Yeah.
Is that Russia waited until 2 days after the Beijing Olympics. The Beijing Olympics ended on the 22nd.
Mm-hmm.
2 days later, Russia invaded Ukraine.
And here's the funny thing. You're absolutely right about that. But here's the funny thing. Russia was already amassed on the border weeks prior to that. They were just sitting there waiting, chilling.
Yeah,
They was having an
yeah. They,
FTX.
they'd already moved.
Yeah,
They'd
they
already
was sitting.
moved everything up there.
Yeah, they had everything already moved up. They was
Well,
sitting there
okay,
having an
okay.
FTX on the
So,
border.
so yeah, yeah, yes.
And
Filtering exercise for those people that don't know what that is.
yeah, yeah,
So
field exercise. Yeah,
yeah.
it's come on.
So here's the thing, right? Like you have, and I blame Putin's generals, right, for thinking that they were just going to walk through Ukraine because that's what they did with Crimea. That's what they did with Georgia, right?
Yeah, yeah,
But what they didn't see happening was Ukrainians being like, no, fuck you, pardon my language.
yeah, yeah. No, you good. Yeah, no,
No,
you're right. That did happen. That did happen. They thought that they was
and
gonna just walk in there. Mm-hmm.
and their logistics failed. Their logistics failed because Russians' logistics failed because they were unable to refuel their tanks, and because they thought they just steamroll all the way to Kiev,
Yeah,
and that didn't happen. And now they're running. Now they're sitting, having to actually get in a fight with people that they weren't expecting to get in a fight with, and their tanks are running out of fuel, and they didn't have a way to refuel them because their logistics suck.
mm-hmm. But,
And yeah,
yeah, no, yeah. It's a mess over there. No
I,
doubt.
I have pictures of farmers pulling tanks off the road with their tractors.
I remember similar incidents in Iraq myself when we was doing that. So
Exactly.
I can't laugh too much, but
Yeah.
I can
Yeah.
empathize. I can
Exactly.
empathize.
Exactly.
It's
Yeah.
like, why didn't you
But
come on the radio
you,
and say
you,
you was
you
down
think,
to a quarter tank?
yeah, you think you've got it won, but here's the difference though, right? Like if with us, we can dismount
Yeah,
and wreck shit,
yeah,
right?
exactly.
Like we know how to dismount and go do a job without a
Mm-hmm.
tank,
Right.
right?
Yep.
They do not. They are they're using 80s tactics,
Yeah. Maneuver.
and they're finding
Strictly,
out that 80,
they can't do that. Yeah, they're utilizing strictly mechanized maneuver versus dismount and an assortment and mixture. Michael,
yeah. So
Michael,
as soldiers, we use the everybody's a weapon,
yep.
right?
Everybody's a weapon.
In everybody's eyes,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I've been teaching them, and like I'm sure they're being taught that now. They're being outsourced to Poland, like whatever else, but like now they're being taught this. Whereas in Russia, they're being taught like you report up before you do anything.
Yeah, no, crazy. Mike, memorable moments, life's memorable moments. Excuse me. Talk
Life's
to us.
mirror moments. Okay, so life's mirror moments is my first. Uh, it's a comedy, I guess you can call it that. Um, it's a bunch of dumb shit that happened to me as a kid. Well, I say a kid, 19 to 24, I guess, were the
Mm.
years 1999 to 2004. And if anybody like remembers those years,
Mm-hmm.
like I talk about like the Nokia brick phone, right, and having to like
Yeah.
mash mash the seven times to get an S,
Yep.
right? And there's two stories. Okay, so right now the best story that everybody likes so far is Friday Night Smurf, and the reason why I like it is because my face gets dyed blue, and as a prank, I guess, at work one night. But I had a date that night, and everybody knew I had a date that night. And my boss did some clever shit and dyed my face blue, and I didn't even know it was happening. Anyway, blah blah. And then there's and there's another story that everybody likes, which is what's it called? It's David and Goliath, and that story is where I get my ass kicked, but or almost get my ass kicked. And basically, um, I ran into this guy. He was huge, like huge,
Mm-hmm.
like 3 weeks to stand up, right? And um, he says, "Excuse me." I slapped him. It was your excuse. I tried to go past him, and if that didn't work, he's like, "You want to try that again?" He goes, "Not really." He's like, "Is it hard to hear up there, or whatever?" Anyway, and he goes, "You talk a lot of shit for a small fry." I go, "Dynamite comes in small packages." I goes, and he
Mm-hmm.
no shit picked me up by the shoulders, like hand on one side, hand on the other side, and picked me up, brought me to him, and goes, "Explode, motherfucker." I didn't know what to do,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
That was
yeah,
good. You know, you have a few other stories in the book that it kind of takes me back to the '90s myself. You know, there's a lot of nostalgia
yes,
moments in the book, and I encourage everyone, if you were born between 1980 and 19
yeah,
actually I'll go back a little further. If you were born in 1970, between 1970 and 1980, you will appreciate this book because it talks about a lot of stuff that happened in the 90s and in the late 90s, early 2000s. So you're old enough to have partook in these things and old enough to remember them. And so
yes,
I highly encourage you, if you want to sit back and just have
and
a hell of a
and,
laugh,
and,
this is it for you.
and the idea is to teach people to laugh at themselves,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
To remind people it's okay to laugh at yourself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Don't take life so seriously, man. It's okay.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Before we get out of here, because we got a couple minutes left. Um, Ladies and gentlemen, if you're looking to get secure communications for your friends, family, and loved ones, you got to go to forfreedommobile.com. Use the promo code RPERM, and check it and get get your hands on secure communications. And as you can see right now, why it's important. I'm talking to somebody that's sitting over in Ukraine right now. So you may have friends that's overseas or somewhere, and you need to have that secure communication line. Telegram is nice, Signal is nice, WhatsApp is okay, but nonetheless, you want to be able to, when all things fail, you want to be able to have a towered type of signal to be able to get the communications across. And Michael, I want to ask you before we get out of here, sir. DEF CON 2. I started, you sent me a briefing. And
Yeah.
I loved it, man. I loved it. I was like, okay, I see where this book is going. Tell us, when are you going to be done with that, and when you gonna
Oh
release
wow.
that? Because I can't wait to read that one.
Yeah. DEF CON 2. Man, wow. Um, It's my first novel. It's gonna be my first like full length novel, and so man, wow. Let's see. I try to do 10,000 work a day. So middle next year, I hope.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. Okay.
Um.
I'm gonna tell you right now. I plan to have you back on again here. You know, not only soon, but probably in a couple of more iterations to just give us an update of what's going on over there. You know, a boots on the ground scout. You know, type of
Yeah.
update.
Doc. Dobre. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
that way, the American people here, and I got an international audience as well. So those around the world, I'll just say that will get a better understanding as to what's going on. It's not being sugar coated. It's not being candy cane media style. It's actually a raw like, hey, this is no shit. What's going on here? And that's what we need to
Right.
have. So I appreciate you. Tell everyone how they can follow you, support you, and and all that good stuff.
Well, Facebook's my friend, right? And Instagram. Um. Buy my book, and I have a group called Life's Memorable Moments, right? Um, I didn't give you the link, but I will. But yeah,
Okay.
it just buy the book. I guess that's. I don't ever ask anybody for anything
Mm.
because that's not my style, right? Um, but if you want to support me, buy my book and buy one of my books, and and be ready for when DEFCON 2 drops because
Yes.
it's
Yes.
gonna
I
be it's gonna be epic.
Yeah. I can't wait to see that one. So hey, Michael, appreciate you taking the time to be here today. I truly appreciate you. Ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna jump out of here. But first and foremost, I gotta pay a couple of bills, and we're gonna catch you all on Monday. God willing, God bless. So keep it locked right here. Coming up in the next hour, we got Dave McQuell with Global Impact. He is back off a hiatus. You know, he was out on the field missions around Africa. You know, spreading the word of Christ and healing lost souls out there. So we're forever grateful to the Lord Savior Jesus Christ and keeping Dave and his family safe and during this time of his work for the Lord. So, ladies and gentlemen, like I said, we'll be right back here in a few minutes. So be yeah, I'm trying to find my thing here. I guess there'll be tabs open. There we go. All right, we'll be right back.
America's under attack, and they're all around us. I'm talking about liberal Democrats, and they're out to destroy everything that we've worked so hard for. Mammoth Nation's here to fight for you. You only get one vote, so let's join forces. We support conservative lawmakers and the causes you hold so dearly. We stand behind our police, veterans, the Second Amendment, and much more. We need your help, so join today.
I had just recently gotten divorced, so I was a single parent, but still wanted to keep my boys' lives as normal as possible. So trying to keep up with something two people were doing and now one person in a different city, new job, new schools. The Thrive really made my transition, which was a major transition, it really made it a lot easier and it made it a lot smoother for my boys. And I know that they're grateful for it. My 10-year-old, he always says, Mom, you've got to thrive out loud. Did you take your Thrive? And my oldest always tells me, like, you're kind of cool, Mom. Like, you don't get it. You're not cranky like you used to be. Like, Thrive really helped me to adjust to something that some people don't really get back on track from.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you can always go to randyperlm/lavelle.com and get your Thrive on as well. Folks, we're going to get out of here. We're like completely out of time now. So be back on Monday. God willing, God bless. Be safe, and talk to y'all soon.
Unstoppable today. I'm unstoppable today.
You are watching the Exceptional Conservative Network. For more information, go to www.tecntv.com.